Hi, and welcome to the Ask Dr. Angela podcast with everyone's favorite OBGYN, Dr. Angela Jones. Have you ever been too embarrassed or shy to ask your own doctor about your, girl parts? Well, you've come to the right place to get straight answers. Feel free to ask Dr. Angela anything women's health related. Obstetrics and gynecology? She keeps it real. Pregnancy? She's been there, done that. Menopause? She'll get you through. Young or old, Dr. Angela's got you covered, girl. Now here's Dr. Angela.
So what's good, people? This is Dr. Angela, everyone's favorite OBGYN, and I am coming to you not exactly live, but definitely in living color. And I've got my girl, Dr. Jess, here with me to answer all things intimacy and sex-related. And this is episode 280 of the Ask Dr. Angela podcast. So a little bit of background on my friend, my colleague, Dr. Jessica O'Reilly, who we affectionately know as Dr. Jess. I'm just going to call her Jess, just to kind of keep it girlfriend to girlfriend. She is a sex and relationship expert and the founder of Happier Couples Incorporated, which provides relationship education online and via retreats to couples across the globe. And I know that she's a globetrotter because I follow her on social media, and I'm constantly seeing all of these amazing destinations. So, obviously, Jess knows what she's doing because folks are consulting her worldwide. She's a globetrotter, so to speak, a trailblazer. So I'm really excited that she took time out of her busy schedule to come and visit us at the podcast. Also of note, she works primarily with entrepreneurs and corporate executives to take their relationships from good to great. So I love that she's helping folks take their relationships to that next level. So I'm just really going to jump right into this, Jess. One of the things as an OBGYN that comes up a lot, and obviously since I'm an OBGYN, I take care of women. I see a lot of women. But one of the things that commonly comes up, and this comes up across, the spectrum of ages, my young patients, childbearing patients, to even my menopausal patients. But I'm bringing this up because I see this a lot in my younger population, i.e., and I'm going to say younger population 40 and under. But one of the common things that they ask me or that comes up is, Dr. Angela, I'm just not really interested in sex. My husband and I, or my partner and I, not only are we not having sex, but I'm just not interested. Do you get a lot of this, Jess?
Of course, because we live in this culture in which if you are a complete woman, of course you're interested in sex. And of course you want to blow your partner's mind. And of course you know all the tricks. And you are at once motherly and tender and simultaneously sexual and ravenous. And that's just not particularly realistic for most people, because if you've just cleaned up your child's vomit or fought with them over doing their homework or talked about how, maybe your mother calls and is telling you of the gossip about your aunt, none of that puts you in the mood for sex. So I think the big problem we have in our culture is that we expect sexual desire to arise naturally or spontaneously, because that's how we see it in the movies, right?
Of course. And I got to tell you. But in reality... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So in reality, most of us need something in order to cultivate that desire. If you just go through your regular day where you go to work, you come home, you help with dinner, you feed the family, you help with the dishes, you help with the homework, you go and wash your face, watch a Netflix show, that is not going to lead to spontaneous sexual desire. And that's okay. You're perfectly normal. It doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong with you, especially because it's so common, as you know. It's just as common to not want sex in your regular daily routine as it is to naturally want it or spontaneously. What most of us need is some sort of arousal first. We do not experience sexual desire, many of us, until we feel aroused. So that might be something physical that puts us in the mood, like a massage or touching or kissing. That might be something emotional that puts us in the mood, like someone's made us feel really important and valued and appreciated and special. Or that might be something more subjective and erotic that puts us in the mood, like we saw something on TV or we read it in a book or we're fantasizing. So that's just 3 ways. But the point is, many of us have to be aroused before we experience any desire.
So I'm like so happy that you said that, because one of the things that I, commonly talk to women about is women are just doing everything. And I'm not going to say all things, because certainly, when you're in a relationship, it takes 2 to tango. But women, the role that women play in relationships, you ran the list. I mean, we're moms, we're providers, we're nurturers, we're helping kids with the homework, we're cooking dinner, we're trying to get some exercise in. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, most women are tired as hell. So how do you find time? I guess you have to make the time for intimacy, so to speak. So and women that are running into this problem, what are some ways that you would suggest to kind of help get them in the mood? And not just for women, because again, the males have to, or whoever you're seeing has to play a role in this as well. What are some suggestions that you have to kind of help to, get that flame back?
Yeah, I want to emphasize that I actually see so many men as well who have lost interest in sex because we are so busy, so distracted. And then I want to just add one layer to all of those roles. On top of all these things, women are no longer allowed to be weak and vulnerable. So we are holding so much tension. So some of the things you can do, the first thing I'm going to say is totally non-sexual, but you have to lay the groundwork in your lifestyle in order to even create an opening that might facilitate sex. So the first thing you can do is do something that creates time for yourself. 30 minutes a week. I'm picking an arbitrary number. If you've got 3 hours, good for you. If you only have 20 minutes, that's fine. But what can you do that is only for you? So whether that's like 30 minutes locked in the bathtub reading a book, or 30 minutes going rock climbing, or 30 minutes having a drink with a friend after work, just take some time to be yourself, because that takes you out of all of those prescribed and stressful roles, like being a mom and being a wife and being a daughter and being a PTA member and being a doctor or a lawyer or working at the store, whatever it is you do for a living. Those are roles, and you need to be out of those and just be you. Just be Angela, not Dr. Angela.
Yes,
just Angela. And this is really important for me. So, as a sexologist, I think everyone expects that I'm having when in fact, I actually can get really bored of it because I'm studying it and dealing with other people's sexual stories all day. So what I need to do is not be Dr. Jess. I need to just be Jess. And it can be hard because, as you know, Dr. Angela, when you're in this role, your friends will also dump on you, right?
Yes.
Like if I just go have a glass of wine with a friend, they might want to tell me about their relationship problems. And then I'm still Dr. Jess. Yeah. I'm not just Jess, your buddy from college. I'm not just the one who just, played a sport with you and now we're having a beer after.
Right.
So I need 30 minutes, some of us can get 30 minutes a day, but can you find something that is just for you? And if you have trouble finding the time to do something that's just for you, I always suggest that people tack it on to something that you're already doing. So if you, get groceries on Thursday mornings, take 30 minutes and go sit. Like one thing that I love to do is I just love third wave espresso shops. So I would love to just go sit in a coffee shop, play on my phone, not check my emails, and drink a really good cortado. So if I try and just carve 30 minutes out of my day today, that's probably not going to happen. But if I have an errand that I have to run that takes me an hour, maybe I add 20 or 30 minutes to that. So that's the first thing, is you need time to just be yourself and be something that isn't playing a role that involves a lot of responsibility. And then the second thing is you have to ask yourself, physically and emotionally and psychologically, is the sex good, right? Because a lot of us lose interest in sex because our partners are not doing what feels good for us. We are not speaking up and saying what we want. And who really wants to do something that doesn't feel amazing?
Right.
So so first you're carving out time for yourself, and then you're kind of assessing, like, are you doing in bed what feels good for you? Or are you doing what feels good for your partner out of obligation? Or are you doing what you believe you should be doing because of something you saw in porn or something you read in a book? Because if it's really, truly pleasurable, physically, emotionally, intimately, you're probably going to prioritize it a little bit more, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So that's a discussion you have to kind of have with yourself and then with your partner. And if you're not getting what you want in bed, let's say it's a lot of, I don't know, like intercourse, and you tend to have more orgasms and more pleasure from oral. Or let's say that it's kind of rushed where as soon as your partner's done, you stop. You got to go to your partner and say, listen, I love the feeling of being close to you. I love how I feel with you after sex, or whatever it is you love. Start with the positive. Then ask them what they would like. Is there something you want to try or something you want to talk about? And then make your request, which is, what? One thing I really would love more of is for you to go down on me, because when you do that, it just feels so powerful. But the problem most of us have, and I'm very guilty of this, not so much in the sexual realm, but in the relationship realm, we wait until we're frustrated to say what we need. We wait until we're at our wit's end, and then we do not make requests. We make complaints, and people are not responsive. Most people of all genders are not responsive to complaints.
You know what, Dion? Can you please just say that one more time? We do not make requests. We make complaints, because that's gold right there. That's gold.
And this happened to me yesterday. Listen, I've got all the relationship info. I know that I really help people with their relationships, but I struggle in my own, right? Like, I was really frustrated over this planning business with my husband, because I do all the planning, and I feel like I book all the flights and I book all the hotels and I book all the dinners, et cetera, et cetera. And I've let it pile up for so long now that when I tried to address it with him yesterday, I exploded, right?
Yeah.
I didn't yell and scream. That's not my style, but I wasn't constructive in the way I approached it. And so my regret and my lesson for the future with other problems in this relationship is when I'm feeling something, say something, speak up about it. And you need to learn to do that outside of the bedroom, usually, before you can do that inside of the bedroom.
Yeah, that communication piece is so key. And one of the things that I find is sometimes we are just afraid to take that next step. How do I bring this up to my partner? I'm embarrassed. I feel silly.
So I'll go back to that 3-step approach, which is pay a compliment, make an offer, then make your request. So that's one way to do it. Compliment, say what you like, make an offer, ask them for their perspective, and then make your request. But if that doesn't feel like it comes as naturally, or you're like me and you let something fester too long, the other way to talk about difficult topics is to use the popular media that you're consuming as inspiration. So if I'm watching a show on Netflix, I could comment on the way a character kisses their partner. Either I like that or I don't like that.
Right.
I could comment on the way a couple interacts and even take responsibility and say, you know what? I know that character seems ridiculous. Sometimes I do that. I've got to work on that. Mm-hmm. Or I could say, that interaction seems really exciting to me. What do you think about it? So I think pop culture is an amazing, a critical learning tool for couples to communicate with one another. And I also think it's a really useful tool for parents to speak to their children about sex and relationships, because it's already speaking their language, because it's media that they're consuming they enjoy. And it helps you to, I think, depersonalize the conversation if you're feeling like you might get too emotional, because it can be easier to talk about other people's fictional relationships than your own. And you can still learn about yourself and learn about your partner. And there's actually research in this area that suggests that couples who are in traditional therapy versus couples who are just in this media program where they had to watch movies and talk about it, the second group actually fared better in terms of midterm outcomes in the relationship. Yeah, because it can be helpful just to say here's an observation I had about a situation that is not even arm's length. It's far, far away from us. And you gain insights about your likes, your dislikes, your boundaries, your insecurities. So I think there's something really valuable there about using pop culture as inspiration for conversations.
So I got to just tell you, I am over here just in awe, for real. I'm like, damn, Jess is dropping some pearls, some major pearls. And we could talk about this forever, but because my followers are always saying, Dr. Angela, you never do anything, for the menopausal women, for the older women, I'm going to shift gears because, and what this really means is I'm just going to have you back on the podcast because I have a whole slew of topics that you and I could just, sip the tea and chat about. But this next one is, I see a lot of senior girls. And, one of the things that we know about our senior population is that they are doing it. They are living, and I do mean that both literally and figuratively. But one of the things that I get a lot of is, Dr. Angela, it really hurts, when I have sex. And that could be from any number of things, whether it's, infection or just vaginal atrophy. But I don't really want to focus on that. What can we do or suggest for, our more senior folks to get, still more enjoyment out of sex that doesn't involve traditional penis in the vagina or, penetration? My
Absolutely.
older girls are like, help me out.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of what the data says, you are far more likely to have an orgasm when your partner goes down on you, when they use their hands, when they play with a toy, than when they stick a penis or penis-like toy inside your vagina. So you're running into something that we've framed as a problem, but it's only because we have a very narrow view of sex, which is, a penis going into a vagina.
Yes.
And that's not particularly effective for most people with clitorises and vaginas. So you're in luck that you're discovering that there are all these other pathways to sexual pleasure. And it's too bad that we're not talking about this from a younger age, although the next generations are more learned than we are. So yes, get your partner to go down on you. And if there's one piece of advice I have for women to be better in bed, to get more out of sex, to want more sex, it's to learn to be more selfish. Learn to be a taker. You have been raised
to be a giver.
Constantly, to the point that when I assign exercises to couples where one partner has to touch the other for, let's say, 10 minutes and the one partner just has to lie there, they can't do it. They do not know how to receive pleasure. They feel as though there is pressure to reciprocate immediately. So wherever you're at, whether you have vaginal atrophy or you're just, 19 and starting out, learn to be more selfish. Ask for what you want. And your partner will enjoy that too. I'm not saying to regard your partner's feelings or your partner's needs, but I think most of us are so focused on the performative element of sex that we no longer know what we enjoy. So if you are postmenopausal, and we need to talk about this because it is sad that it's kind of in many places we see menopause and postmenopause addressed as a footnote instead of the half of our adult lives that it comprises. And you can enjoy sexual pleasure until any age. So first is get your partner to go down on you and teach them how to do it. And I do have some tools and resources if people are interested. I have video courses on how to go down on a vulva. And I have free information too if you're not interested in the video courses. Yeah, somebody actually I have a model who's learning alongside me and demonstrates on a peach.
Yes, I've seen some of your video features and they are good. Good.
Yeah, so let them learn. You can learn at any age. Sex is not intuitive. So teach them what feels good for you. Let them use your hands. I suggest you try a toy because toys are becoming more common. Half of American women now own some sort of a vibrator. And I think if we get the updated data in the next few years, we're going to see that it's quite a bit higher than that. Mm-hmm. So get a nice vibrating toy, a good quality toy that you enjoy. Obviously, you're going to be using lubricants. A lot of my clients who are, let's say, 55 plus, like the Astroglide. A lot of people like that. Some of them prefer the ultra gentle gel. But figure out what works for you because you're always going to want to use lube. Let me tell you, the teenagers have it figured out. We used to think lube was something you used when you weren't wet enough. Now we know that lube is something you use because sex is so damn good and it feels even better when you use lube, regardless of gender, age, genitalia, sex act. The slippery stuff just multiplies the positions, techniques, and sex acts in which you can engage just with a few drops.
I know. That lube is a game changer. And like yourself, I'm a huge advocate for Astroglide. And, everything that you just said is so not only enlightening, but spot on. And the other thing that I often encourage women to do is that self-love, not being afraid to embrace your body, look at your body, touch your body, feel your body. And, something that I commonly see is, my patients will say, oh my gosh, I can have orgasm by myself. I'm like, well, you got to show your partner, and you're absolutely right. Being able to verbalize, but all of these techniques that you have and that you demonstrate on your videos are amazing. But there's something to be said about self-pleasuring as well, and being comfortable enough with your body to be able to allow yourself that pleasure.
Agreed. Learning to self-pleasure is life-changing because you learn to appreciate your body, connect with your body. Most of us have our first orgasms using our own hands or devices. So yeah, learning to love yourself is really good practice too, right? Like you get used to just receiving pleasure because there isn't the same performance pressure.
Yep. Wow. So Jess, I'm going to wrap this up. I could be talking to you forever, and you have to promise me that you will please, please, please come back and be a guest on the podcast, because again, we have like a slew of questions and topics that we would love to pick your brain about.
I would love to. Absolutely.
So as is the usual, I'm going to say thank you so much to my listeners, my followers, and supporters for all of the love. I appreciate it more than you know. If you happen to have a topic or a question that you want featured on the podcast, you know how to reach me, askdrangela.com, and you can hit me up on any of my social media venues, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just direct message me and we will get back to you. In closing, I'm going to give you one of my pearls from one of my favorite little books, Life's Little Instruction Book, and it's number 297, and it says, remember, and I think this is really appropriate for today's topic. 297 says, remember that a successful relationship depends on two things: finding the right person and being the right person. Until next time, look better, feel better, be better. Can't wait to reconnect on episode 281 of the Ask Dr. Angela podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Ask Dr. Angela podcast. For more information on women's health and the show notes for this episode, please visit Dr. Angela at www.askdrangela.com. While you're there, don't forget to leave your own message for Dr. Angela. See you soon! All of the information provided and discussed in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not take the place of consulting a physician. This podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease or illness and does not and should not replace treatment from a medical professional.